Recently, I've been taking a dive into Arcstaff and exploring its build potential in Season 15 PvP. Just last patch, it got a 4-second duration buff in its super, which is kind of big, but not quite the main reason I've been looking into it. This season came along with a new set of stasis armor mods I'm sure most of you are familiar with by now, but one in particular stood out to me as a hunter main. Utility Kickstart is a stasis class armor mod that replenishes a fraction of your class ability cooldown whenever you use a class ability. Now, as someone who already hovered around 7 or 8 mobility on my hunter, this really had me thinking, how often do I actually need my dodge? Now, it seemed like along with this new mod and Bottom Tree's dodge cooldown bonus while sprinting, I was able to comfortably sit around 6 to 7 mobility, though absolutely giving up my dodge. I'm still able to use it whenever I need it, and I can focus on those mobility points into better stats like recovery, discipline, or intellect. In my opinion, current options in a way have power crept past a realistic cooldown on dodge abilities, and using less than you think might be the most optimal way to play now. What if we took it a step further? I introduced to you one of the best entry frag builds in the entire game in my opinion for the Season 15 sandbox. In this build we are using some painfully low mobility on Bottom Tree Arcstaff, as well as Frosties to completely alleviate any of that pain immediately. Now, I've never really seen Frosties as a competitive option, but that low mobility thinking I had led me to a neat interaction that is much stronger than most think, and I think it has been glossed over by the community for a while now. Combat Meditation speeds up melee and grenade cooldowns when critically wounded. Here's a comparison between normal grenade cooldown versus Combat Meditation. Now, Frosties speed up all ability cooldowns whenever sprinting. Here's Combat Meditation and Frosties working together in tandem. Yeah, it's pretty crazy, but what's even crazier is you can proc Combat Meditation yourself via a ricochet round weapon. This leads to outright mayhem like grenade cooldowns unless you have an Arcbolt available every gunfight. Now you might be thinking, well, having an Arcbolt up every fight isn't that important. How good are Arcbolts? Well, let me remind you. Arcbolts to this day still remain one of the best grenades in the entire game for light subclasses. Without a doubt, it is probably the best entry frag grenade, as it allows you to tag out multiple enemies with 91 damage, which can only be broken with abilities such as a dodge. If you tag 3 separate enemies with an Arcbolt, you're essentially doing 273 damage across an entire team, which is 273 less damage that your team needs to deal in order to wipe the enemy team. Now, having one of these every single fight opens up lots of opportunities. A well-placed Arcbolt can basically fish out anybody hiding in any camping spot in the game, and allows for a quick entry frag on someone that already has 91 damage dealt to them. In a meta where sitting in the back with high intellect is essentially the best option, having Arcbolts like this is a great way to force aggressive and engaging gameplay in modes like Trials of Osiris or Comp. Similarly to Glacier Grenade builds or radar manipulation builds, this build gives you a great amount of control and allows you to essentially dictate the pace of team fights or when they actually happen. A typical gameplay loop seen when using this build is a slide in, throw a grenade at where you think the enemy is, tag them up with a primary, and if you get weak, you can always use your dodge with increased damage resistance to dodge safely back into cover and start sprinting to immediately kick up your grenade recharge again. Now, with both of these combined effects, you'll likely recharge about 3/4 of your grenade back, which leaves you with about a 10 to 12 second cooldown left, assuming you're running around 7 or 8 discipline. Now, we can also speed this up by using double bomber, and while I thought about using utility kickstart instead, I think that you get your dodge too often with the combat meditation, the Frosties, and the focused breathing mixed all together, so I figured having double bomber was just much better and much more viable in order to speed up that cooldown, especially because you're usually using your dodge to disengage from an engagement began with your grenade. So in most situations, it's almost like you have grenade kickstart on your class item because you're dodging most of the time after throwing a grenade. Keep in mind also, Bottom Tree Arcstaff has an inherent sprint speed bonus, and you can stack 2 sprint speed bonuses at a time for a maximum of a 12.5% sprint speed increase. Stacking this effect with the sprint speed bonus given after a dodge with Frosties gives you that maximum 12.5% increase, and is very helpful for getting around the map. Now, I'm going to be going over what I use personally for armor mods. I like to stick with at least double targeting on my helmet, which means I can run hand cannon targeting, shotgun targeting, and a minor mod on my helmet. I like to run hand cannon loader and a regular mod on my arms with fastball. Keep in mind that having fastball is very, very important because the throw distance on Arcbolts is atrocious without it, so you want to make sure you're running that for sure. On my chest piece, currently, due to the slide nerf, I like to run double hand cannon unflinching, just to keep my flinch in check while sliding and in regular gunfights. With this, with a mix of stability on my hand cannon, basically makes it so it's impossible to miss shots mid-gunfight. And I just slap another minor mod to mix with my helmet mod. On the boots, I just run Powerful Friends. I charge it up with Invigoration with a regular mod. I don't think Shotgun Holster or any of those holster mods are important here, or Scavenger, especially in Trials. I like to keep it more primary focused, as 140 RPMs are insanely good and like synergistic with Arcbolts, as it requires a headshot and a body shot to kill. And on my class item, I just use a Discipline mod. You can use really whatever mod here, but just make sure it's Solar and you're running 2x Bomber. Or if you really care about your dodge and you don't care about the grenade as much, you can always run Utility Kickstart, but I find myself to just use Bomber and it's much more effective. That's about it for the build. I'm hoping the background gameplay gave you enough of an insight about the basics of this build, but I'm thinking about uploading a live commentary afterward in order to really give you like a better insight as to my thought process when running this build. I wouldn't say this build is completely busted, but I do think it is towards the top of better options in terms of Hunter gameplay, as having an Arcbolt every opening engagement is insanely good and allows for very aggressive play, and allows your teammates to collapse on multiple weak enemies. I don't think this build would be just completely broken and busted, but I do think it's very fun, and if you really sink into the gameplay and you're more primary focused, this is probably one of the better builds to be running at the moment on Arcstrider. And in Trials, where people just like to sit in the back, the Arcbolts are really, really good at fishing them out and punishing them. So let me know if you have any success with this build. Hopefully you guys can try it out. Leave a like if this helped at all, and be sure to subscribe for more content similar to this. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Later.